Ford's Explorer is the best-selling three-row SUV in America. And for 2025, yes, 2025, they have made some pretty massive changes to the Explorer. Let's take a look. The first thing you notice up front is the dramatically redesigned front end. We have a larger and bolder grille. There are 4 different grille designs depending on the trim level you're looking at. And then we get full LED headlights in every trim, LED fog lights below, and a revised air curtain depending on the trim you're looking at. Now, speaking of trims, that's probably the biggest thing to know. The XLT trim is gone, as is the base Explorer trim. So things are now going to start in the new Active trim. So when we talk about pricing a little bit later, keep that particular detail in mind. The new Explorer has become a bit more expensive, but versus that XLT trim, the price bump is on the modest side. Coming around to the side, the Explorer is essentially the same size that it was before. And that's because, again, this is a refresh, not a redesign. I'll have to apologize for speaking quickly because we have very limited time with this particular Explorer. There are a ton of different wheel and tire options. The ST line comes this year, and we also get the ST trim back, of course. So if you want the 2.3-liter turbo with ST looks, you can get the ST line. If you want the extra handling ability and the extra power out of the ST trim, you can get that one as well. Although it is worth noting that let's check out the tire size on this ST line. Actually, these are the same size tires we find on the ST. Ford has been really shy on the details, so we're just going on the fly here. Moving around to the back, we find full LED taillights. These are definitely a dramatic change from the lights that we had in the previous Explorer. They add to the extra width that we find in this model. And another nice change, Ford says that so many customers were towing with their Explorer, they decided to make the towing equipment standard. So 4-pin, 7-pin connector right there, 2-inch receiver. The one big way to tell the difference between the ST line and the ST is that we don't have any visible exhaust tips on the back of the ST line. We get the quad tips on the ST. I can't show you under the hood, but we can talk about what's under there. There is a base 2.3-liter turbo. This is the same displacement that we had before, but it has received some tweaks for 2025. They say it's the same tweaks that we find in the Ford Mustang, so my guess is that power is going to bump just ever so slightly, perhaps up to 310 or 315 horsepower. The outgoing 2.3-liter turbo was a little bit less powerful. The bigger change is that we no longer have 2 different versions of the 3-liter twin-turbo 6. Now there's just one, and it's the more powerful version. Previously, there was a version that was approximately 365 horsepower, and then there was the 400 horsepower trim. Now every version of that twin-turbo 6 is 400 horsepower. We don't have any fuel economy specifications yet, but we know that 4-wheel drive is going to be available. Rear-wheel drive is going to be standard, and the standard transmission is the 10-speed automatic. Now, another key thing to know is that Ford has not said whether the hybrid model will return for 2025. It has, of course, been discontinued recently, so my guess is that it may not come back. We also don't know too many details about an upcoming Ford Explorer EV, but let's take a look at the interior really quickly. The seat design is a little bit changed over last year. So this particular ST trim gets 4-way adjustable lumbar support and the active massage functionality. That's a feature that I really appreciate. We also have a powered tilt telescopic steering column. This is one of the few models in this segment that gets this particular feature. But if I just grab the camera from Travis, let's talk about the bigger change inside, which is this massive LCD in the dashboard. This is a 13.2-inch LCD, and it runs the new Google Automotive operating system. And the same hardware is running that screen and the 12.3-inch LCD instrument cluster over here. Other big change, you'll notice these little blinking lights here. Those are not visible to the human eye. That's part of the new Blue Cruise system, which is now going to be available in the Explorer. But back to this infotainment system. It's going to support wired or wireless Apple CarPlay. It's going to support map projection from the Google navigation system, both over here and over here on the instrument cluster. And it has a processor fast enough to support gaming. You can pair either a Bluetooth keyboard or a Bluetooth game controller to the system, and then you can use that while you're parked. It'll also offer streaming services. Going down the dashboard, we have a nice big storage area here, easily able to accommodate some of those larger smartphones like that. Of course, I have that upside down for charging. And we do have one optional Qi wireless charging mat. That's not going to be standard. On the other side, no charging there. Depending on the trim level you're looking at, there'll be some ambient lighting running under the dashboard, but that particular feature is not standard. Every version, however, will get this standard fabric-coated sound bar on the dashboard, and that's something I really appreciate. I appreciate the fact that they've really upgraded the interior materials in here. So we have the fabric coating here, soft touch injection molded section there, some pleather wrapped sections of the dashboard here with some contrasting stitching, nice big glove compartment down there, and improved stitching and materials on the doors as well. Here's a quick look at the seat design in this particular model. You can see it definitely looks very much like the outgoing ST seat. Then back here in the center console, more storage. You can see that they've actually stashed away one of those Bluetooth controllers in there. We still have the rotary style shifter, drive mode selector, pretty big cup holders there as well. The steering wheel, it receives fewer changes than some of the other components inside. We have the big sport grips up there and basically the same button modules we've seen for a while. The Explorer remains a 3-row SUV. The second rows still slide, and they tilt and slide in the same fashion as before to help you get back here into the third row. The third row dimensions remain the same, so this is not the roomiest in the 3-row segment, but it's a solid competitor to the Pilot and the regular Highlander. I have plenty of headroom back here. Only if this rear seat is reclined does my head start hitting this hinge area. Sitting in a more natural position, I have maybe about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of headroom left. Legroom, however, that is a little compromised if that seat is all the way back. Let's go ahead and check out the cargo area. That remains essentially unchanged. Hatch release right over there. Back here in the cargo area, we do still get one of the larger cargo areas in the segment. Pay no attention to the cords running around, that's just for extra lighting here. And there is still this really deep cargo well under the floor. And a nice touch is that we still get a temporary spare tire in the Explorer, something that a lot of manufacturers are starting to remove in order to help improve the weight of the vehicle. If you want to get your hands on the new Explorer, these are going to be on Ford dealer lots pretty soon, maybe in about 6 months or so. And here's the detail on the pricing that's important. It's going to start at $41,220 for the new Active trim. That's effectively replacing the XLT trim and the base Explorer model. So base to base, the price tag has gone up by about $3,000, but XLT to new Active trim, the price has gone up by only a few $100s. That seems pretty rational to me because we get a ton of standard equipment now. We get the standard trailer towing package. We also get the LED headlights, adaptive cruise control, the big LCDs on the inside, and all of that processing power and those new improved software screens in there as well. This does seem to be a little bit more expensive than some of the competition in this segment, but again, I think it's a pretty decent value. It's also worth noting that a lot of dealers didn't really stock the base Explorer trim in any great numbers, so effectively the XLT trim was often the least expensive model that you could find on a dealer lot. How does the Explorer stack up against the competition? Well, you'll have to wait until we can get our hands on one to know for sure, but the competitive landscape has shifted recently, and definitely since the last time I drove the Explorer. We have the new Mazda CX-90, which is rear-wheel drive, but the interior of the CX-90 is a little on the tight side, even though it is bigger on the outside than the Explorer. Part of that is because of its inline-six engine design, which is buttery smooth as far as the engine idle goes, but the drivetrain has never been as smooth as the drivetrain in the Explorer, just due to its standard mild hybrid design. We also have the new Grand Highlander, which is definitely really big on the outside. We of course have the Kia Telluride and the Hyundai Palisade, which are getting some refreshes recently. And then of course we have the Dodge Durango sailing off into the sunset. Logically, the most direct competitor to the Explorer continues to be the Grand Cherokee. Whether we're talking about the 2-row or the 3-row Grand Cherokee, the Explorer is right there in that segment. The two vehicles are substantially similar. They're both rear-wheel drive unibody SUVs, but the Grand Cherokee is a little bit more off-road capable, especially in those top-end trims. And that's where the new off-road trim of the Explorer is going to come in. We don't have any details on it. We don't know what it's going to be called. My guess is going to be some sort of Timberline trim, because that's what Ford has been using in a lot of models. But we don't know whether it's going to get a 2-speed transfer case or some sort of additional airlift suspension or anything like that. Those are features that have long separated the Grand Cherokee from the Explorer, but they're also responsible for the Grand Cherokee being significantly more expensive in those off-road trims than the Explorer. So this may be a more pragmatic, more affordable off-road vehicle. With all that in mind, let me know what you think of the new Explorer down there in the comments section below, and stay tuned because hopefully I'll have more information, more complete pricing on the various different trim levels. And of course, we should be driving this year because this is going to be on sale in the second half of 2024. See all of you next week.